Hey fam, welcome to Babbling Tat. As always, I want to start off by saying thank you for being here. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing right now, thank you for choosing to spend this time with me. Today, we're talking about boundaries. And listen, I know firsthand how tough and excruciating this can be. If you've ever felt drained, resentful, or like people are walking all over you, like you are just the doormat, we're going to talk about why that's happening and how to fix it. In this episode, we're going to cover how to set boundaries because you do deserve to have limits and to protect your own energy. The backlash that comes with setting them, because let's be real, not everyone is going to clap for your self-respect. How to respect other people's boundaries, because setting them is one thing, but we also need to remember how to check ourselves, right? How to stay true to our boundaries, because they mean nothing if we keep making exceptions. And most importantly, why choosing yourself is not selfish, but it's necessary. This is a conversation that can be uncomfortable, especially if you're used to people pleasing or avoiding the conflict. But boundaries are not about shutting people out. They're about keeping yourself safe and making space for the right relationships, the right opportunities, the right energy, your peace. So let's get into it and start with the basics. What even are boundaries? It's kind of turned into a word that's just thrown across on social media and the internet, right? Boundaries are the limits that we set to protect our well-being. They're like personal fences that say, this is where I end and this is where you begin. They define what we're comfortable with and what we're willing to tolerate and what we absolutely will not allow. Before anyone thinks, well, I don't really need boundaries, trust me, you do. Because when you don't set them, you teach people that they can drain you, disrespect you, or take from you without consequences. There are different kinds of boundaries depending on the situation. One is physical boundaries. Who gets access to your body and personal space? Boundaries for that might look like, I don't feel comfortable hugging people, or I need time alone before I'm ready to be social. Another one is emotional boundaries, protecting your mental health and not taking on other people's emotional baggage. That one's pretty tough. Boundaries for that one might look like, I care about you, but I can't be your emotional dumping ground. Or I need to step away from this conversation because it's really triggering for me. See how we're kind of not blocking people out, but more so protecting ourselves? Another one is time boundaries. Who gets access to your time and how do you protect it? Boundaries for that could look like, I don't answer work calls after 6 p.m. or I can't commit to that because I need time for myself. Picking up what we're putting down, the pattern that I was just talking about, right? We're not blocking people out. We are just protecting ourselves. Another one's mental boundaries. What conversations or interactions drain you? Boundaries for that might look like, I won't argue about politics or religion, or I need you to respect my beliefs even if they're different from yours. Respect, not accept. Totally different things. Now, how do we actually set boundaries? Get clear on what you need. If something constantly makes you feel stressed or uncomfortable, that's a sign that a boundary probably needs to be set. Communicate it directly. No over-explaining, no apologizing, just say it. Example, instead of, I hate working late, but I guess I'll do it. Say, I'm not available after 6 p.m. You do not need to explain or justify yourself and your boundary. Like how no is a sentence, your boundary is a sentence. Be prepared for the pushback. Hold tight. We're going to dive deeper into that one. That's usually, at least for me, where I fall apart. All right, so finally set the boundary. Like I just said, unfortunately, though, that's not necessarily the hardest part. Here's what actually happens. People who have benefited from you not having boundaries, they're going to be big mad. Friends might say, you've changed. Family might guilt trip you with, but we're family. A partner might accuse you of being distant. This is where, like I said, personally, I crumble. This is where a lot of us crumble and then even begin to feel ashamed for trying to set boundaries in the first place. right? Like if this hits for you, you know the spiral that I am like talking about, right? And we just entirely like, how selfish, how wrong am I to almost stand up for myself, right? Because let's be real, we don't want to be the bad guy. We don't want people to think that we're selfish, mean, or cold. But let me tell you something. Someone being upset that you have boundaries does not mean that you did something wrong. It just means that they got used to having access to you in a way that no longer works for you. And that's okay. A healthy person will respect your boundaries. An unhealthy person will try to manipulate you, guilt or pressure you into breaking your boundary. And when that happens, and it will happen, hold the line. You are not selfish or wrong for setting boundaries. You matter too. That is not a you problem, that is a them problem. 1000%. So, let's flip it. We've talked about setting our own boundaries, but what about when someone sets a boundary with us, right? Perspective shift. This actually kind of helped me in setting boundaries when people would set boundaries with me. Because let's be honest, sometimes when either we set a boundary or someone sets it with us, it feels like a personal attack, right? Like, it's me. Maybe a friend says that they can't talk about something and then we feel shut out. Maybe someone stops engaging in a dynamic that we were comfortable with and it stings, right? Like, hurts. But what we need to remember, someone else's boundary is not about rejecting you. It's about protecting them and them choosing themselves. Just like how setting boundaries for you isn't about rejecting other people, but about protecting and choosing yourself. Sometimes a perspective shift is really like, oh, damn, like, okay then. So instead of trying defensively to react to someone else's boundary, maybe try responding with, I appreciate you telling me that. Thank you for setting that boundary. I respect it. Simple. They are not attacking you. And, right, like we know how hard it is to set the boundary and how hard it is to hold the line and like, the anxiety that comes with that. So if someone sets that with you, like you're basically reaffirming to them that it is okay to set that boundary. Like, just imagine if, you're setting a boundary and someone were to answer your boundary with that type of response. How much better would that feel? And how much better would you feel about your boundary and protecting your energy versus someone clapping back and trying to like get you to break that boundary, right? Like, this builds trust, respect, and deeper connections. Just like you matter to yourself, they matter to themselves too. And that's okay. Setting a boundary is one thing, and enforcing it is another. And let's be real, we've all made exceptions. We say no, then we feel bad, then we say yes. But every time we go back on a boundary, we teach people that it's not real, that it's okay. You can pretty much pressure me and guilt trip me into doing whatever it is that you want. So ask yourself, where am I letting guilt make me fold? Where am I sacrificing my peace just to avoid conflict? The truth is, choosing yourself is not selfish. It is self-respect. And giving up or compromising your peace and your energy and your mental state, physical state, just to make someone else more comfortable or to give someone else what they want, there's no honor in that. I know growing up I was told, be the bigger person, don't be selfish. How dare you be selfish? Basically be a people pleaser. And there was almost this like sense of like honor and pride of being like, yeah, you know what? I can make people happy by doing what they want, no matter how uncomfortable or unhappy it made me. If you can relate to that, or if that hits home for you, know that you are not alone. And we are leaving that people pleaser era and mindset in the past well far behind us, and we're not going to look back and go back to it and go chase it down. That is behind us. There is nothing selfish about setting boundaries, and and there's nothing selfish about choosing yourself and your peace. I want you to walk away from this episode remembering that your boundaries are valid. Your peace is worth protecting. It really is. And that choosing yourself is not wrong. So fam, what's one boundary you're gonna set today? Drop it in the comments or tag me in social so I can cheer you on. Like I said, I know how hard that can be. And as always, we stick together, we heal together. Stay here, stay weird. The world is a better place with you here in it. Protect your peace and set those damn boundaries. Fucking proud of you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you shared it with a friend or shared it on your socials and tagged me in the show. Connect with the podcast directly on Instagram at Babbling Tat Podcast or connect with me at xxtatqueenxx. You can also visit the website tatscorner.com for more resources, info about P3, shop RDC, read the blog, join the community, or just to stay connected. Link is down in the description. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the flip side.